Okay, so this is episode 2 of a podcast I'm working on. About a year ago, someone who's on the board of my work, a guy named Kevin Ewing, owns a production studio that, especially in the pandemic, is really an audio studio and a podcast studio. Responded to one of my things on Facebook and saying, ever think about writing an audio, a radio play? I said, maybe. And then I went home and I thought of this podcast. And I wrote the first episode in about a month. That was about this time of year. And then, actually I have it in here. First episode started on October 13th. Finished it by January. And then this next episode has gone by very slowly. And so part of the thing I want to do with writing, and I gotta adjust my lighting so I can see my text. There we go. Or, let me see. Let me play with this. There we go. Kind of blocking the monitor, but that's okay. So, podcast. Yeah, so I finished the first episode around January. It wasn't, and a bunch of things distracted me. You know, I have this werewolf play that I've been working on for longer than this. My brain suddenly decided to go back and work on Dust Bunnies, which is one of the plays I've been working on since high school. Carlos, you will know what that word means. And so I have only typed up and written and typed up one scene. I think we could read it. And basically, the premise of the podcast is we've got it's the year 3017. Humankind is in space, escaped to space after the Great Flood. May have come back, haven't decided yet. And a lot has changed, but also a lot has stayed the same. The default romantic pairing or partnership is two guys and a girl. Because for whatever reason, birth weights of women plummeted at some point. There is kind of a techno-fascist government, partially inspired by 1984, where everything and everything is recorded at all times, which is the premise of the podcast, because the format of the podcast is that you're listening to the recordings captured, and also their confessionals, because part of the thing is that they confess. They pray to these techno gods, which I'll read the first scene of this, the only scene I've typed up written of this second episode, and you'll see who those gods are, and their names might sound familiar. And it's basically a social media post, but it's recorded. It's a vlog. They pray by vlogging, which, given what we're doing right now, is pretty ironic. Yeah, and so there's this black hole, and there's a space station orbiting the black hole, meant to study it. It's a space lab called the Black Sun Space Lab, which I only later found out is actually the Black Sun is a Nazi symbol, and I found that out. I'm like, maybe I'm gonna use that. We'll see. But as of right now, it's called the Black Sun, and I didn't know at the time that the Black Sun is a Nazi symbol, but now I do. AC Marks, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. So, I think that's Anthony. I think I know who that is. Hello. Welcome. Thank you. So, there's a space lab. Yay! I knew it. I know your online names. I can do this. So there's this space lab, and there's these scientists, and one day there's this recording that like they're supposed to report, because they're a space lab. They're supposed to report to the government their findings about this black hole, and this is a universe where black holes are showing up more and more rapidly than they should be. So there's this fear that like the world is ending again, except it's the entire universe. And one day these scientists stop reporting back, and then when they do, it's like super cryptic, and also the guy is kind of messed up. Like there's something wrong with him, like very wrong with him. And so they're like, the government is like, oh, there can't be actually anything wrong. They're trying to trick us, and they're trying to rebel against us. Let's send in some space marines to just kill them all. And so the space marines are kind of one of the space marines is like sort of the protagonist. This is kind of like the I think of this like this is I have like a 6-season arc in my head, and this first season is like the that opening chapter of Game of Thrones. Remember that show where a party goes out into the north, and then they get killed by ice zombies, and then one guy comes back. It's kind of gonna be that, but anyways, that's spoilers. That's ahead of time. So they get to the space lab, and they don't find anybody, and they find this record of what happened. And what happened was there was this thing that came out of the black hole. Now, black holes, in case you didn't know, nothing escapes a black hole, not even light. But something came out of the black hole, and it was this basically a giant egg with like human-esque skin for a shell. And they just didn't know what to do with this egg, and it sat there for months and months. And then some dude bro, you'll appreciate this, Anthony. Some dude bro in thermonuclear, nuclear. I'm trying to sound like a dude bro. That's not working. Some dude bro in nuclear was like, "What the fuck are these nerds in bio doing?" And I literally made him like a bro, which is funny because the note I got was like, "This guy seems to talk too stupidly to be a scientist." But like, well, maybe he wants to sound stupid. You ever think of that? But he's like, "What the fuck are these nerds doing in biology, where they can't figure out what the fuck this egg is? I'm gonna go touch it." So he goes and touches it, and it molds to his hand, and then it starts pulling his hand in, and obviously it's a very painful process. And Anthony, you also appreciate this because this is like this scene. Well, it's partially inspired by the chest burster scene in Alien, but a lot of the sort of like weird sci-fi elements of this are inspired by Gravity Falls. There's the scene in Gravity Falls in the finale, and I haven't seen the finale, but I have seen this clip. I'm about halfway through season 2 myself, where Bill Cipher rearranges the function of the orifices on this guy's face. So like I think his eyes end up on his nose, or his mouth turns into an eyeball. It's disturbing. It's one of the most disturbing things I have ever seen, and it's from a cartoon. And it still like makes me want to throw up thinking about it. And so it's this scene's partially inspired by that. And so this guy touches the egg. His hand gets sucked in. Finally lets him go, and his hand is just gone. It's as if it was never there. It's just a stump, and there's no bleeding. There's no mark. It's just sealed, as if it's gone. Obviously the dude's pretty upset. What the fuck did you do to my hand? And then someone named Karen, because I like to play with my names, is like. So if you've ever seen the Trespasser scene, like it's infamous for there's this infamous urban legend where they didn't know what was going to happen, and this one girl screamed, and it was a genuine scream. They knew what was going to happen. They've read the script, but they didn't expect the effect to be so real because they hadn't seen the effect before. But there's a woman that screams and like cowers away, and that's her genuine reaction. I'm sort of parodying that, and this woman named Karen screams, and then the egg, like, sort of, and this is all being described, so you hear it. You don't actually see what happens, but in this episode, I hope to like dig into what happened, like have someone describe it. But basically, the egg grows an arm and in the hand based on what it stole from the dude bro, and grabs the woman's mouth to seal it, and then does the whole moldy to the skin thing and steals her mouth, and then grows its own and starts using her scream. And that's basically how the first episode ends, is that like reveal of that tape, and then you jump to the scientists, or not the scientists, the space marines rather, and they can still hear the screaming even though the recording is over. So the egg thing is somewhere on the spaceship. That's how episode 1 ends. And then episode 2, I kind of got distracted by things, and now I have the first scene. I have the first scene written, typed up. I have about 3 or 4 scenes more, which we're going to work on tonight. And it's only like 3 scenes later that I'm like getting to the follow-up of that like egg scene, and the intention is to be like focused on the scientists. My problem is I sort of just like threw together random characters. I didn't really fill them in that much. When I was writing that scene, I was more thinking about, oh, it would be cool with this egg and that kind of thing. I knew what the scare was. I didn't know who the characters were, and now I got to figure out who those characters were, because this episode's supposed to focus on the characters, and sort of the aftermath of the egg, and how they go from that egg to disappearing, and then sending that call, and then eventually where the Marines are supposed to find. And I have these like visions of like body parts stolen and swapped, just pure body horror, but described to you, so it's all in your imagination, because it's a podcast, it's audio only. So you get to imagine the body horror in your brain, which makes it that much scarier. That's what I want to do, at least. So let's start with, I guess I can read aloud. For the camera, again, I can get my acting face on. I gotta get used to doing this anyways. Carlos, go to bed. There'll be a VOD. I'll post the VOD in the Discord, which you should join. You too, Anthony. You should join the Discord. Links in the About section. There'll be a VOD, and you're gonna read this. I'm gonna send this to you. eventually. I gotta send you the first episode, Carlos, and you can read it. And anyone who wants to read it can just message me. I'm not private about my stuff. I like it when people read it. It's better than just sitting in my inbox. It's in the About section. You're on the page. Go to About and then click that, and then join it. It should say Discord. If not, I'll message you on Twitter. Okay, so this is where was I? So here's the first scene that I have, and it's a bit of a jump because the last episode ends like on a cliffhanger, and then we're starting this episode, and I'm like getting mad at myself for this writing. I don't want to get to what happens next because I don't know what happens next yet. Where I'm just sort of jumping around and doing some world building. Because why not? This scene's going to end up somewhere. It probably won't end up in this episode, but this is what I have so far. So there's a computer voice. There's like an unseen person logging into these computer archives so that you can hear the footage. And so you'll hear the computer voice is sort of like the guide through the story because it's like telling you what this person is searching to construct this narrative. Anyways, computer voice accessing Western Federal Archives. Please enter your government-issued credentials to proceed. There is a series of keystrokes. Credentials accepted. Access approved. Welcome, Alex Wyndham. Alex Wyndham is a buddy of the dude bro from the first episode. Several more keystrokes. Accessing audiobook. The Ascension of the Prophets by Elon Callahan. Excerpt begins. Elon Callahan. 1,000 years ago, humanity was splintered. 173 countries, give or take, or 5,000 states and provinces, over 5,000 states and provinces, tens of thousands of counties, cities, and townships, all different ways of dividing and managing 8 billion minds. The majority of humanity at the time operated under a basic concept of freedom, that every man and woman has the right to do or be whatever they want, so long as no harm shall come to others or themselves. At least that was the theory. That was the case in theory. But then often social rules were put in place in the name of freedom that restricted that very freedom. Rules about gender and sex and clothing and weapons, rules about illness and rules about health, rules about setting rules about money, who has it, who earns it, and who keeps it. All of these rules in the name of freedom. Was it worth it? Perhaps not. The early years of the third millennium were fraught with apocalyptic circumstances. War and conquest opened the millennium with the destruction of a monolith of financial and political power. Then, 20 years later, came a plague which spread across the earth like sunlight and caused humanity to flee into their houses like lizards seeking cool air. All the while, the atmosphere was finally showing signs of all the wear and tear humanity's freedom had wrought upon the earth. Warning signs of the second great flood appeared long before it began to take shape, and a few brave souls attempted to sound the alarm, but their voices were stifled by the clamoring of the uneducated hordes. To put it bluntly, humanity was drowning in freedom, and soon it would be drowning in seawater. Fortunately for them, 4 great men had the foresight to build arks for that's a misspelling. To build arks for humanity. Musk, the prophet of travel, developed the technology to physically ascend beyond Earth's soon-to-be watery grave. Zuck, the prophet of the mind, developed the technology to capture the images of a person's mind and render them as data. He utilized this data to recreate the millions of minds that were to be lost when the Great Flood reached its most devastating. Cook, the prophet of rebirth. Might change this to Zos. In fact, no. Gates. Yes, this is Gates, not Cook. I was gonna make a joke about Tim Cook, current CEO of Apple, getting all the credit for that other guy that actually founded Apple. I don't even remember his name. Steve Jobs. Like Steve Jobs just gets erased from history. Gates, the prophet of rebirth, created AIs which rendered the data collected by Zuck into virtual versions of the soul, which the data was based on. These AIs were basic at first, but as observational technology progressed, we became closer and closer to creating a true afterlife. And finally came the last prophet, Zos, the prophet of the coin, who financed and combined his vast resources with those of the other three prophets to create these technologies that were so necessary for the preservation of humanity. With the plans in place, the prophets now had the momentous task of deciding which parts of humanity needed to be reserved whole cloth, and which parts could be preserved as data. After all, Musk's ark was vast, but it was not infinite. How shall humanity be governed once they were selected to board the arks? It was certain to the prophets that the sins of the past must be considered, and freedom, all that freedom, it had been one of the greatest sins of all. So that's what I have so far for the first episode. And I have a few more scenes after that. That's sort of more world building, and sort of touches upon who these scientists are and what they're doing and what they're not doing. But it doesn't dive into the action, and I think that's what was holding me back. And so that's what I need to write next. But in the meantime, I have a bunch of material that I have written but I have not typed up. So that's what we're going to do tonight with the last half an hour. And I'm going to get a little focused. So I hope it's not too bad. I'm going to put on my music. I can't put it on stream because y'all can't hear it, but I will post the link to this playlist in the chat if y'all want to listen to it as well. Okay. Not sure who we got left, but whoever it is, thanks for sticking around. I'm thinking now is the time to chill out, to wind down the stream. Yeah, I hope, I don't know, this is a bit of an experiment. I wasn't sure. I hope that reading the story as I type it is entertaining for y'all. I thought about it. It got quiet, and so who knows? I'm a person who I was a performer once. I'm very rusty at it, and being animated in front of an audience. I think, I feel like I did that tonight, and feel really energized about that. Feel good about that. So yeah, let me know. Y'all know where to hit me up. I don't know who it is left. I'm thinking about. No, if it's Ty, if you're the one that's left, I was low-key gonna play the third impact just because that was the music that was playing in my head, was Come Susan Todd. Or playing in my headphones rather. Not gonna do that to you. Not at 10 p.m. tonight. But anyways, thanks for following, y'all. Thanks for hopping in. Feel free to drop into the Discord. I'm gonna try and hang out there more and low-key get off my NSFW Discord account and spend more time on my SFW Discord account and in my own community and in other communities so that I can gather an audience. We shall see. But that's it for the evening. Thank you guys so much for watching. Future viewers, thank you so much for watching. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these videos. I don't have time to edit, but the Death Stranding bit is a bit disjointed. I really like the intro, and then I had to jump onto PlayStation, and I hate PlayStation's OBS. It's hideous. It's hideous. Why do I need that monkey there? Anyways, all right. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna head to bed. Good night.